Giorgia Meloni's far-right Brothers of Italy party secures the most votes in Italy's general election and is on track to become the country's first female prime minister. Protests, drafting errors and a mass exodus of eligible reservist troops have wreaked havoc with Russia's recent partial mobilisation mandate. However, the Kremlin is tightening rules around evading military orders. In Dagestan, one of the country's poorest regions, demonstrators have clashed with police. Over 100 people were arrested. While some 3,000 people have crossed the border into Mongolia since Wednesday, most of them men. Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has ordered guaranteed protection for Russian soldiers who surrender. He says, "I want to emphasise once again there is a way out. Do not submit to criminal mobilisation, flee or surrender to Ukrainian captivity at the first opportunity. I ask all our friends in the information field to support the spread of this appeal. The more citizens we have from the Russian Federation who at least try to protect their own lives, the sooner this criminal war of Russia against the people of Ukraine will end." Ukraine's Air Force has posted footage of what it says was the destruction of a Russian drone sent to the city of Mykolaiv. While the US has warned Russia's leader that there will be catastrophic consequences if Moscow uses any nuclear weapons.
Unrest in Iran enters its second week, triggered by the death of a woman in police custody. The EU says disproportionate force is being used against protesters.
It might come as no surprise, but the far-right have won the elections in Italy. Giorgia Meloni's far-right Brothers of Italy party has almost 26% of the vote. Together with Salvini's La Liga and Berlusconi's Forza Italia, the right-wing alliance will take away at least 114 seats in Parliament.
If we are called to govern this nation, we will do it for all Italians. We will do it with the aim of uniting people, of enhancing what unites them rather than what divides them.
While Meloni's partners La Liga only secured 8.5% and Forza Italia 8%, this right-wing coalition has secured some 43.4% of the votes. The centre-left has gained 26.8%, excluding the votes of the anti-establishment party, the Five Star Movement, which came away with 16.5%. The Democratic Party is in second place with 19% of the vote. Leader Enrico Letta has conceded defeat, while the deputy leader expressed the party's responsibilities as the first opposition party.
We are the second political force, and therefore we believe we have to be an opposition that will be an important opposition, also because we have a great responsibility. We are in front of Europe. We are in front of the country for the most difficult steps the country is facing.
Hungary's leader Viktor Orban was one of the first to congratulate her. Poland's Conservative PM Mateusz Morawiecki also extended his congratulations. Nevertheless, this election had the lowest turnout in the history of Italian democracy, at just under 64% at the close of polling stations.
In her first public appearance since results showed that the right-wing alliance led by Brothers of Italy won by a large majority both in the lower house and in the Senate, the leader of Brothers of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, who's also expected to become Italy's first female prime minister, came up on this stage right behind me. She thanked her supporters and she said that Italians have given a clear indication, and that is that Italy's next government will be led by Brothers of Italy. And she said, quote, "We won't betray our country." And she also spoke about the fact that her will is to give pride and greatness back to Italy and Italians. And she also talked about the fact that Brothers of Italy has never given up throughout all these years to reach this very moment. In fact, the party's support has increased fivefold over the course of the past 5 years. One of the main takeaways from these elections is Matteo Salvini's League Party's collapsed to 10%, even in some areas in northern Italy, where the League Party has maintained some of its main strongholds. But also voter turnout fell again to below 64%, which is the lowest in the Italian history. Both Hungary's Prime Minister and Poland's Prime Minister sent messages of congratulations to Giorgia Meloni, who also said that on Monday she's expected to address the country when also results will be official. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
As nationwide protests in Iran enter a second week, a fifth member of a volunteer paramilitary group has died. The unrest and outrage sparked by the death of Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian woman detained by morality police last week, accused of violating the country's conservative dress code. Protesters are demanding an end to violence and discrimination against women. State media is calling them rioters and thugs. It says at least 41 people have been killed. The EU's Foreign Chief Josep Borrell says there's been a disproportionate use of force against protesters. In Revolution Square in the capital Tehran, these people gather in support of mandatory hijab laws. Authorities say they will restrict internet access in the country until calm is restored to the streets. As the German Chancellor plants a tree in the United Arab Emirates, a nod to environmentalism, but it could also be a symbol of a growing friendship between Europe's largest economy and the Middle East. Olaf Scholz's two-day visit to the Gulf region is focused mainly on securing new fossil fuel supplies and forging fresh alliances against Russia. German energy company RWE has signed a deal with Abu Dhabi National Oil Company to deliver liquefied natural gas to the country by the end of December.
We're going to focus on a lot of different regions that give us the ability to ensure our energy security. We're not going to become dependent on one supplier again in the process. That certainly won't happen to us again.
The Chancellor will also visit Qatar, where the World Cup soccer tournament will be held later this year. And yesterday he was in Jeddah holding talks with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The world is closely watching this tour. Germany needs to secure new oil and gas supplies, but it doesn't want to be seen as soft on human rights. The Crown Prince has been blamed by US intelligence for green-lighting the assassination of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018, which he has denied. German media reported that Scholz would address situations of concern, but noted a solid working relationship with Saudi Arabia was needed.
Air traffic at France's Montpellier airport, closed since Saturday morning after a cargo plane went off the runway, could happen early next week. The Boeing 737, a regular flight carrying mail, had 3 crew members on board. All escaped unharmed. An investigation into the cause of the crash is underway, and experts believe bad weather at the time of the incident played a determining role.
Pink Floyd's co-founder Roger Waters has cancelled concerts in Poland next year. It follows outrage in the country over comments he made about Russia's war in Ukraine. The band was scheduled to perform at Krakow Arena in April, but a venue spokesperson said Waters had withdrawn. Earlier this month, he wrote an open letter to Ukraine's First Lady, blaming extreme nationalists in the country for setting a path to the war.
Thousands of people gathered outside a Madrid bull ring to protest against Spain's bullfighting tradition. The demonstration called on authorities to end bullfighting and other similar activities involving the animal. Bulls and bullfighting are currently exempt from Spain's new law that includes harsher penalties for the mistreatment of animals.
Voters in Switzerland have rejected a referendum motion that would have put an end to factory farming in the country. Almost 2/3 of those who cast a ballot opposed the initiative, which would have outlawed intensive farming methods. Farmers' unions had opposed the move, arguing that animal rights are already protected by existing restrictions, which limit the quantities of livestock any single farm can keep. Citizens had also expressed concerns over the impact on food prices. In a separate referendum, the Swiss did agree to raise the retirement age for women from 64 to 65.
Denn die Schweizer Landwirtschaft kann niemals